Alright, I've done a few videos about MLB expansion lately. In the comments you see a wide range of opinions, and cities from all over are mentioned. Not just in the US and Canada. A few suggested Mexico, and last week we looked at a couple cities in Mexico as possibilities. Two more places that have been mentioned a few times are Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. First of all, we've got to ask the question, why would MLB want to do this? If they're going to award an expansion team to an international city, the logical choice would seem to be a city in Mexico. The country's got a lot more people, a larger economy, shares a land border with the US, and has stadiums that are almost up to Major League size. But a Major League team on a Caribbean island would have certain advantages. One, it would no doubt be the biggest thing on the island. In Mexico, baseball is, by some measures, the country's second biggest sport, but that's a distant second. Soccer is king there, and their pro soccer league is well respected around the world. A Major League team in any Mexican city would be, at best, the second most popular sports club. In the Dominican Republic, baseball is without a doubt the top sport in the country, and it's not even close. There is no sports league in Dominican Republic that would give a Major League team any sort of competition. They'd have the attention of the whole population. In Puerto Rico, baseball is not as big as it used to be, but just as in the Dominican Republic, a Major League team in Puerto Rico would overshadow everything else. It would have the support of the whole island. A Major League team based in Mexico would not only face competition from the soccer league, but also from Mexico's own baseball league. The LMB has been around since 1925, almost 100 years. That's the oldest professional sports league in the country, and its season runs at the same time as the Major League season. It's got its own traditions and rivalries. Fans might not like the idea of a foreign league coming onto its soil permanently. In DR and PR, they also have leagues that have a long history, steeped in tradition, but those leagues take place in the winter. They have summer baseball too, but the top level of competition, the one everyone gets excited about, is during the winter months, the Major League off-season. A Major League team on one of those islands would not take anything away from the winter leagues. In fact, it would probably help them. With Major League players calling the island home for the summer, winter league teams would be able to convince some of them to stay a little longer and play through the winter. They'd also be able to advertise the winter league during the summer to those watching from the US and other countries, leading to more fans watching from abroad. I see only positives for the winter leagues here, so the MLB team would be welcomed. Okay, now that we've looked at the advantages and disadvantages a PR-DR team would have when compared with Mexico, it's time to decide which is the better candidate, Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. Both have some advantages over the other. Let's start with Puerto Rico. The most obvious advantage Puerto Rico would have is that it wouldn't be international expansion. It's a US territory, so that makes things a lot easier. Not as easy as if it were in the continental US, but it's easier. Same currency, same laws, mostly. Different language, but you have that with the Dominican Republic too. GDP per capita is $38,000, which is much higher than Dominican Republic or Mexico. In fact, it's the highest GDP per capita in Latin America. And remember, they use the US dollar, so we don't have to worry about currency fluctuations. Gross national income of $21,000. That's lower than any US state, but you won't find any higher in Latin America. In the Dominican Republic, GDP per capita is $10,000. Gross national income, $8,000. Puerto Rico is clearly the wealthier of the two. And it's a proven Major League host. 49 Major League games have been played in Puerto Rico since 2001, and 3 times it's been host for the World Baseball Classic. The Dominican Republic has had nothing more than exhibition games. Stadium situation is the same in both countries. All their stadiums are small by Major League standards, and they need to build something bigger if they land a franchise. But they've both got stadiums that can be used as temporary venues while a new one is being built. And what advantages does the Dominican Republic have? Well, size, definitely. It's got over 10 million people, whereas Puerto Rico has just over 3 million. That's a major weakness for Puerto Rico. You could mention that Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Portland all have smaller metro populations than that, and those cities are real expansion candidates right now. But what happens when you go outside those metro areas? You might run into a smaller city or a series of small towns, but the point is there are people there. They can take a bus or drive into the city and catch a game anytime. Puerto Rico is surrounded by water. The population on the island is all they've got. 3 million is not a large number, and the population has been declining for over a decade. Dominican Republic, on the other hand, has a population larger than the states of Tennessee, Utah, or Oregon. If population was the only thing to consider, the Dominican Republic would be an ideal expansion candidate. Puerto Rico would have no chance. Incomes, as I already mentioned, are a big win for Puerto Rico, way ahead when it comes to GDP and income per capita. But in recent years, Puerto Rico has seen a decline in GDP almost every year, while the Dominican Republic typically sees growth around 5% annually. They've got a lot of catching up to do, but at some point, if recent trends continue, there will be more people with the financial ability to support a Major League franchise there. This is similar to the comparison I made between Monterrey and Mexico City. Monterrey's got average incomes almost double that of Mexico City's, but Mexico City has 4 times the population of Monterrey. So it leaves you wondering which city has more people with the money to attend the games, if a major league team moves into town. At this point, it looks like more people in Puerto Rico can afford to pay the ballpark admission, but we know an expansion team in the Caribbean islands is not going to happen anytime soon. And with population growth and economic growth heading in opposite directions, the DR will pass PR at some point in the future, unless there's some big change. If Major League Baseball wants to expand into Latin America, I think it's safe to say Mexico will be their first choice. An expansion to the Caribbean islands could happen years later, and when it does, I think the better candidate would be the Dominican Republic. Puerto Rico not only needs to improve economically, it would need a serious population boom to ever be taken seriously. Dominican Republic has enough people. It just needs to continue its high rate of economic growth for a long time. It's not close to that right now, but at least it's on the right track. Puerto Rico is not at the moment. There's also the possibility that both of them see improvements over the years, but they're not quite good enough to be expansion candidates on their own. They might be open to sharing a franchise, the split team concept that we talked about a few weeks ago here, where the Dominican Republic gets 40 home games and Puerto Rico gets the other 40. That could possibly work. You could even include Cuba in that, though there would have to be some big changes before that could happen. Maybe 1 or 2 games in Curacao, the Bahamas, a true Caribbean team. Maybe they'd call it the Caribbean Islanders, or something. Or, as I've suggested before, maybe that's what the Marlins should be doing. They have trouble attracting a decent-sized crowd in Miami on a regular basis. Perhaps Miami doesn't need that many games. Maybe they should become the Caribbean team. I don't know. What do you think? Expansion to Puerto Rico? Expansion to the Dominican Republic? Caribbean franchise visiting all the islands? Or is that something the Marlins should be doing? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, that's all for this one, and until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.